and welcome to IATF Live. With me, I have got Rachael Roberts, and I'm very, very excited to welcome Rachael to our IATF Live. Rachael, welcome.
Thank you, Georgia. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
That's no problem at all. Rachael, I personally follow you on social media because I absolutely love your posts. But for anyone who's not familiar with your work, can you tell us a few things about you?
So where to start? I've been in ELT a long time. Started out as a teacher, became a teacher trainer, manager, and then I went freelance in about 2008, writing ELT materials. And I've really enjoyed that, but I kind of missed having direct contact with people and seeing the impact of what I was doing in the way that you do when you're a teacher or a trainer. And I actually trained as a counsellor and psychotherapist about 20 years ago and had never really used it. And so I kind of thought I'd like to do something with that. And I went back and did a coaching diploma and ended up coaching ELT professionals, which has since kind of gone into ELT freelance professionals, business coaching and mindset coaching.
Oh, this is incredible. And so what is it like to work as a freelance professional in the ELT industry?
So, well, you know, the ELT industry is both beautiful and terrible. It's beautiful because mainly, I think, because of the people who work in it, to be honest. You know, I didn't really intend to go into English language teaching. I'm not sure that many people do. I thought I was going into theatre directing. But once I started, I loved it. And, you know, I've always liked the people that I've met. I think they're very imaginative, creative, dedicated, kind, you know, lovely. However, the flip side of that is that I think they get exploited terribly. And I think the same thing actually often goes when you're freelance. You know, theoretically, if you're freelance, you should be able to manage your business in a way that suits you. But so often I see people who are still being underpaid and overworked.
Yes. And do you think that there is a lot that has changed after COVID-19?
So, yes, I think so, actually. I mean, I've been freelance, as I said, since 2008. So, you know, quite a long time. And I think that since COVID, people have realized how much you can actually do online, which actually is one of the more positive things to come out of COVID, along with obviously some negatives. And people were initially forced into, I think, becoming freelance in many cases, because obviously schools shut down and, you know, everything changed. But now I think people are starting to see the potential that they've got in that. In the past, you know, you needed to be a big company with a lot of spending power to actually set up a business. But now you can self-publish, you can create digital courses, you can teach groups online, you know, you can do all sorts of things for relatively little budget and actually create something that's yours. And so it's quite exciting, actually, ultimately, even though it was very disruptive at the time. And it certainly was for me. You know, I lost 90% of my income overnight. So wow. I get it.
Yes, absolutely. And then how do people decide when it's time for them to become freelance? Because it can be a very difficult decision then. And what's the catch for them? What's in it for them?
Well, so, I mean, I think quite often people do take a while to sort of move over. And certainly I did. You know, I was working at a further education college and I kind of went down to 4 days and then down to 3 days, you know, until I felt safe enough, if you like, to take the plunge. And I think if you can do that, that's probably not a bad thing, because it does take time to build up a business and a clientele, you know, whether that's teaching or writing or consulting or whatever it is that you're doing. I would generally advise that for people because it, you know, it takes time to build up. What's the catch? Well, I think it is that lack of security, but on the other hand, you do have so much more potential. So, you can stay working in a job that's badly paid and you work lots of hours. Yes, you're secure, but you're never going to get any better than that. Whereas if you work for yourself, you've got lots of potential.
Well, that's true. And you have worked a lot on overwhelm and stress. So what impact can stress have for someone working in the ELT industry, especially as a freelance?
Well, as I say, I think it goes across the board in the ELT industry. And some of this is absolutely about exploitation, but some of it, I think, is about the way we treat ourselves. And certainly, as a freelancer, often people find out that really they are a much worse boss to themselves than anybody ever was when they were employed. They wouldn't treat anybody else the way they treat themselves. And, this was, the reason I trained as a counsellor 20 years ago was because I had 2 burnouts in my early career. And I realised after the second one that it took me that long, that it wasn't just about what my employers were expecting me to do. Some of it was, don't get me wrong, but it was also about the pressure I put on myself, wanting to be perfect, wanting to please people, feeling a bit of an imposter, so that is why mindset's such a big part of what I do. And that's why I'm talking about self-doubt at the ITEFL conference, because actually, yes, you need to have the business knowledge, but if you don't deal with that mindset stuff, you are going to get just as stressed and burnt out as you did in your previous job.
Exactly. So speaking of your ITEFL presentation, now on Wednesday at 5:25.
That's right.
Excellent. So you are going to talk about overcoming unhelpful self-doubt to flourish as an ELT freelancer. Now, without revealing too much, can you tell us what the presentation is all about?
So, yes, I was thinking, what can I say that won't kind of give too much away? I think the key thing that I want to say in the presentation, and I am going to say it now, is that self-doubt is not a character flaw. And that might come as a bit of a surprise to some people, I think, because, we feel, oh, no, I should be more confident, I shouldn't doubt myself, etc. But in fact, it's a perfectly normal human biological reaction to anything that is threatening. We're just trying to protect ourselves. And I think actually when we see that and we can drop some of the guilt about, oh, I'm self-sabotaging, and then actually it becomes easier to overcome it and to really fulfill our potential. So I'm going to be talking a bit more about that and kind of how it works biologically. And I'm going to be taking you through a process that I use with my clients that you can use yourself when you get self-doubt getting in your way, if you like.
Very good. So again, without revealing too much, can you share a good tip for getting clients to overcome this self-doubt?
Okay, so what can I say that's not giving me too much? I think ultimately it is about awareness, because if you're not aware of what's happening, then you obviously can't do anything about it. It's about being self-compassionate, so, not beating yourself up about it. And really, the more, it's a little bit like language learning. We get students to notice certain aspects of language. And until you notice that aspect of language, it just goes straight past you and you can't take it on board. And I think it's very similar. It's about noticing certain patterns that you have, not judging them, just noticing them. And then you can start to just little by little undo them. And every time you notice them, then they get less and less powerful. And, I often talk about what I call the inner troll, which is that nasty inner voice that tells us how hopeless we are. And people talk about how you should, kill that voice and stop it. And it doesn't work, because that's there to protect you. You've got to learn to live with it, but not let it actually run the show. That's the answer.
That's very good. That's very good. Thank you. So going back to IATEFL,
Mm.
what are you mostly looking forward to at the conference this year?
Well, I haven't actually been for a couple of years, which is unusual for me because I do tend to go most years. I think the first IATEFL I went to was 1997.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm that old. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with people, I think, and meeting new people is a big part of it. I haven't even had a chance to look at the programme yet, other than the plenaries, but the plenaries look amazing. Obviously, I'm interested in Divya Madhavan's plenary because she's talking about stories of coaching, mentoring, and teacher resilience. And I also really want to see Leslie Painter-Farrell's talk about ESOL because I spent 10 years teaching ESOL. And in fact, Leslie and I used to work together a bit in Poland many years ago, doing teacher training. So I know what a fantastic presenter she was even then. So I'll be really pleased to see that, and indeed all the plenaries.
Very good. And now, speaking of IATEFL and how we can develop as professionals, what other ways and methods do you use to develop your skills and to continue learning and to stay aware of current trends in our industry?
Oh, good question. So I'm a huge believer in lifelong learning, as I think are probably most people who are going to come to this conference. So I think it's partly why I've stayed in ELT for such a long time is because I think there is a big culture of people wanting to learn. And in fact, I called my coaching company Earn, Learn, Thrive because, earning is important, but so is learning. And we have so much access to learning, particularly through IATEFL. Even if you can't actually make it to IATEFL in person, there's going to be a lot available online. So conferences is one big way. Books, I'm still a big believer in books, and I read a great number of books, particularly about personal development. Nice. I'm reading one at the moment called 4,000 Weeks, which I'm now going to forget the name of the author, but it's about the fact that on average, we have 4,000 weeks in our life. Or is it 40,000? I'm not very good at maths. But we have a limited amount of time, and we try very hard often not to think about that. And in fact, when we do think about that, that's often when we make the best decisions about what to do with our life.
That's interesting. And in that case, I want to ask you, are there any future projects that you're working on?
So I'm always working on something. The next thing that's coming up is last year I did the first ever that I'm aware of Festival of Freelancing for ELT professionals, a week's online event. Mm-hmm. And I'm planning to do that again in June. So it's free.
Oh, lovely.
Anybody can attend, just sign up, and everything happens within a Facebook group. And we're going to have people coming and talking about starting a YouTube channel, using Facebook ads, copywriting, using AI on your website, lots of different topics. So do come along to that if you're an ELT freelance. Come along virtually, that is.
This is incredible. Lovely.
Well,
and how did it go last year? Oh, sorry.
So I think we had about 400 people in the group. And I'm expecting it to be a bit bigger this year. So it's going to be really exciting and an opportunity to, meet and network with other freelancers as well, of course.
Absolutely. And do you think that there are a lot of ELT influencers out there?
Yes, I do actually. I mean, not the kind of influencers that, get sent products and pose with them on Instagram, but there are certainly people who are having an influence. I had a LinkedIn live chat today actually with Patrick Jackson, who has started this amazing movement getting kids in primary schools to pick up litter, and he reckons that they've picked up hundreds of tons of litter as a result. That's pretty influential, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. This is incredible. Last year, I remember in the IATEFL conference, I was speaking to one of the speakers I'm really sorry, I cannot remember his name right now. So if you're watching, I'm really sorry, I cannot remember the name. But he was telling me, for example, about his project that he was doing in a primary school in Spain, in which he got students to write a letter about sustainability and how to save the environment and how to make their city cleaner, which was incredible. And that inspired me a lot, because our students do have a voice. And then if we help them express their ideas and feelings, then this is a massive thing that we can do.
Absolutely, yes. I wonder if that was Harry Waters. It sounds like it.
Oh yes, I think it might have been. I think it might have been Harry. If you're watching, I'm really sorry.
He's another person I would say is an influencer. Or I mean, though, one of the things that I encourage clients to do is to get known for something specific.
Yes.
And very often it is something that, people really care about and really have a passion for. And I think, that's a win-win, because it can help to drive change. And of course, it obviously helps their business too.
Absolutely. So what are the 3 secrets then to success as a freelancer? Apart from passion, let's put passion as number 1.
I think passion is really important, because I think if you're not interested in what you're doing, you're not going to push through the difficulties, if you like. I think I'm trying to think how to put this without it sounding too boring. But I think being organized is quite important, actually, because you need to set yourself some goals. You need to work out what the steps are that you're going to take next, and you need to just keep going and keep going and keep going, even when it's quite difficult. And I think where people sometimes struggle is, have you heard the phrase shiny object syndrome?
No.
So it's when you're a bit like a magpie, so you start doing something and then, oh, look, something shiny, and you go off and do something else. Oh, look, and that can be a problem, I think, because if you don't have a boss kind of directing you, and you're going off in different directions all the time, then you might not make very much progress. So I think focus maybe is a better word than organization. And then I think forgiveness, of yourself, because things are not going to work sometimes. Things are going to go wrong sometimes. You're going to forget things. You're going to fail to get, enough clients for your group. These things happen, and you have to just be able to roll with it, I think, and just keep going.
That is so true. Well, these were wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, one last question for you. Last year, we asked our speakers and interviewees and many people who participated in the conference to describe IATEFL in one word. So what would your word be?
Well, I suspect I won't be the only person to pick this word, but I'm going to go for community.
Oh, nice.
Because I think, for me, that is the big thing. It is a community. It is an opportunity for people to get together with other people who share similar passions and, find out what they have in common, learn from each other, find out how things are the same or different in different countries. And we are all part of that one community.
Definitely. Well, Rachel, thank you so very much. I've learned so much about being a freelancer and about how we can build our self-esteem, even with just the few information that you have given me about your presentation. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation on Wednesday at 5:25.
5:25, yeah.
Excellent. Lovely. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you at IATEFL.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to it too. And thanks so much, Georgia.
Thank you, Rachel.
Chat.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.